So we are an Australian company by heritage, founded in about 2009. So we're sort of coming up to about 15 years old. So sort of mid-maturity, you would say, as a tech company. Still owned and run by our founders, which we're really proud of because it helps keep that sort of purpose and passion at the heart of all things that Compass do. Started originally just two guys, got together over a shared passion of education, data, and general sort of geekery around what tech could do in the education sector. And Compass 0.1 was a little tool that helped one school in Melbourne produce its end of semester reports, so end of term reports as we would call them. And that school is still a Compass customer to this day, which is great. And they now use the full breadth of our offering, which over the last 15 years has grown into what we now in the UK would recognise as a fully fledged management information system. So attendance, reporting, assessment tracking, behaviour, well-being, parent comms, timetabling, all of those things that you expect. So just grown organically since then. We've been in the UK about 18 months, just coming up for, having first actually branched into Ireland. That was Compass's first sort of international foray, really designed as a test to see, can we do business internationally? Are we GDPR compliant? Can we transact in euros rather than Australian dollars? All those practical things you need to work out. That's gone great. We've got 70 schools in Ireland, all going strong, and the business over there is growing, headquarters in Dublin. And yeah, UK followed about 18 months ago. We've got a small little office in Hammersmith, a growing team, and our first presence at Bett, as you can see this year. We're signing up schools, they're going live, and things are going really well. It's an exciting time. Bett's been good for us this year. I mean, I've used to work at RM. I've been in education technology for almost 20 years. So this is my probably 15th Bett, something like that. I've lost count a little bit over the years. But for us this year, it's been great. So yesterday was Wednesday, International Day, normally. So you get an awful lot of international interest, which is still good. Compass is a global company, so capturing future opportunity has been great. Today has been much more sort of domestic markets and much more school leaders, academy leaders, trust leaders, sort of those practitioners, sort of more of that sort of domestic market stuff. And we've been busy pretty much all day and hoping for more of the same tomorrow. So it's been great to announce our presence at something like this. So yeah, I think there's quite a number of issues that senior leaders talk about in schools right now. The need to save time is as great now as it's ever been, and I think moving to an MIS, which nearly all schools have now done, will have made an impact in that. What we now need to do is help progress that even further. So more automation, more workflows, better user experience, better UIs, better connection of modules of things that go together. Teachers continue to be incredibly time poor. So that's always a focus of what we do, streamlining, simplifying, connecting things together. I think the use of data, that's been a thing for a while, and that's actually just increasing. More and more data is being captured. There's more national benchmarks now. There's more international benchmarks you get with Pearls, PISA, TIMS, all of these international studies. So I think having platforms that put the right data into the right person's hands at the right time in a way that they can act on it is just increasing importance. That's great. I think schools also want to consolidate, actually. I think we've been through a phase where MISs landed and schools adopted them. They then started to kind of diversify a bit, and lots of other apps and widgets and bolt-ons started to appear in the market. I think maybe over the last 12 months or so, we've started to see that trend go full circle, and MISs, Compass included, have started to sort of sweep up some of those, what would have been third-party systems, but now just inherently should be part of an MIS. And the advantage of that is because we build these things ourselves, we can really tightly integrate them. So great examples being parent payments and parent comms. So now with Compass, there's a parent app. All of those things are in one place. One app, one button, one look, one feel. You can pay for your kids' football club at exactly the same time as checking where they are with their homework or seeing what their last assessment score was. So I think bringing all of that stuff together is quite a trend now and sort of consolidating that ecosystem. Yeah, I think the reason schools have chosen Compass has been quite varied. The Irish market is quite different to the UK. So in Ireland, the providers are different. It's a different competitive landscape. And I think over there, Compass represented something completely fresh and new. They maybe had not had much choice over the last few years, and we came in with a new UI, fresh. We're completely cloud-based, which some of the providers in Ireland aren't. So that's a slightly different dynamic. UK, completely different market. England market, completely different. Lots of big players, many of them cloud-based, many of them sort of a bit more modern. So I think the reasons those that are starting to take a leap of faith in Compass, because we are new, we are new in market, we're a challenger, has been really about partnership. So we've been able to go to those schools with a really clear message around, look, we are new, we recognise we're new, we recognise there's things that we need to build and get right. Let's do it with you. So we found a really amazing group of schools that are, well, mavericks, bluntly. They're wanting to take a bit of a chance. They're wanting to create something, co-create what the future of good MIS could look like. So I think we found a bit of a sweet spot there. As the product develops, I think that will start to change. And by sort of later on this year, Easter just around the corner, certainly new academic year in September, I think our demographic will change a little bit. And as our feature set grows, we'll find those schools that have got pain points that really closely align with the bits that we do really well. I've mentioned timetabling as a real sweet spot for us. We've got an amazing solution for that. So those that really struggle with it, I think we'll start to be successful there as well. So what makes us different? I think we're in a scenario where you've got quite a lot of MIS providers that have been around quite a while, got reasonable market share, lots of changes of ownership, lots of changes of sort of corporate direction and corporate ethos. I think, well, we are very proud to still be owned and run by the guys that founded us. And that heart and that passion and that belief for making schools better and helping them to be the very best that they can, I think sets us apart. We're purpose-driven, not profit-driven, fundamentally. And our growth trajectory in the UK is very much shaped around that. We've got a good product, so it would have been really easy for Compass to think that they can come to the UK and suddenly win 1,000 schools overnight. We've got an MIS, but we haven't done that. We acknowledge that we need to grow with schools, we need to build trust, we need to build confidence, we need to build partnerships, we need to give a great service, we need to make sure that all of our schools love what they do, they get the best out of their platform. And that actually takes longer than getting the products ready to some extent. So we've been really sort of careful with how we grow to make sure that we can go with our schools at their pace. It's really all about service, partnership, making sure they get the best out of what they've got. Yeah, the feedback's been really interesting actually. So they do value that partnership, that service that we really pride ourselves on. We've had some quite interesting feedback around some of the new features actually. So census, for example, big job in schools. That's not a thing in Australia. So Compass has never really had to deal with that before. So we've had to build a whole new module from scratch, from the ground up, to deal with all things census. And that's gone really well, so well that we've had a couple of schools that signed with us that weren't due to migrate maybe until September this year, but actually chose to import their data early, specifically so that they can run census through Compass. So even though we weren't technically their live MIS at that point, they saw how we designed census and how much easier it was. They go, well, we just want to do that because that's so much easier. They migrated soon. So that's really nice to get that confidence of things that we're building with our schools, with that partnership that's actually, it's resulting in a feature that really makes a difference, that is genuinely demonstrably better than what they had previously. The product has got really broad appeal actually from a school sector perspective. So the schools that we've signed so far cover pretty much the full spectrum. We've got some mainstream secondaries, we've got some mainstream primaries, we've got some special schools, both primary and secondary. We've got some independent schools. We've got a couple of multi-academy trusts that have a mixture of primary and secondary within them. We've even got some independent but government-funded pupil referral units, so sort of right at the sort of difficult end, pupils that have really complex learning needs, very complex environments they need to be successful. So it's a really exciting customer base actually. There might only be 20 or 30 of them, but that mix of their needs is great, and we're serving all of them, which bodes really well for our place in the market going forward. The UK MIS market's a really exciting place to be. I've been in EdTech a long time and I've been in and around MIS for a long time, and I think what we're seeing now is probably the most exciting and dynamic time in MIS that certainly I've known. I firmly believe that choice is a really powerful and important thing, and whether that's schools choosing Compass, I'd love them to, of course, but actually schools just having a choice and being able to exercise a choice about what's right for them, what is the right MIS for them, what is the right curriculum program for them, whatever that may be. I think that's a really powerful thing. And right now, we're in a scenario where I generally think schools have more choice than they've ever had with that stuff. I know there's a few complexities around sort of how schools might move from one contract to another and the timing of it and bits and pieces, and now's not the time for that debate. But fundamentally, having companies like us and other MIS providers that all challenge each other to do better and to innovate and to be dynamic and to do what's right for schools, I think is great. How do I think that will change? Well, I would love to see a world where switching your MIS is as easy as switching your bank account. You know, we go back 5 or 10 years in banking, and switching a bank account was a real pain, and you had to do it all on paper and go into your bank, and it took forever. Now we do it online in 2 minutes. I'd love to get to a situation where a school can switch an MIS over a weekend and it's just taken care of. And for that to happen, I think the onus is on us as vendors and collectively all MIS vendors, and probably the DFE as well, who've got a big stake in this, for us all to get together and agree on common standards, common data formats, common data structures that means schools can port that data around, and what might be the right MIS for them 1 year might not be right in 5 years. You know, as a MAT grows and expands and changes, or as an individual school's pupil demographic might change, they might very well want to change their MIS, and why not? So I think anything that can increase that choice and that ability for schools to exercise that choice without it taking 6 months of procurement effort and migration effort and retraining, I think is great. So the more we can see of that, the better. I think AI is broadly a good thing. Certainly makes for good marketing, doesn't it? Personally, I think we see a lot of AI in education that maybe isn't true AI. It's maybe not quite all it's billed to be. I think there's definitely a place for it. I'm unconvinced what role it has to play from a learning perspective, because I still believe that the most impactful thing in education is the relationship between an educator and a learner. And whether that's traditional teacher-pupil, or whether it's a mentor or a teacher or a tutor, whoever it may be, I think that human connection is really important. So I'm naturally wary of anything that erodes that sort of human element to learning, because humans are inspired by other humans by and large, and learning should be an inspirational experience. So I caveat anything I say with that. That said, you know, you look at what ChatGPT can do now and all these things, like, there's undoubtedly great benefit there. Things that can save time, things that can speed stuff up, things that can find an insight in a bit of data that perhaps might not otherwise have been spotted, I'm all for. And you know, Compass, like all the others, you know, we're looking at it, we're seeing what role it can play. I think it's about deploying it in the right places. You know, AI is not an answer to everything. I certainly don't feel it is. I don't think Compass would say it is either. But yeah, we're experimenting, certainly. I think it's definitely got its place. Values are a good question for us. So being founder run, that's really goes to the heart of what we do. You can see it on our board behind us. So our tag is helping learning thrive. And those are a really important set of words for us, because they're more than just a phrase. We've thought very carefully about what each of those means. So the word helping is important because that's exactly why we're here. Schools are great at what they do, and our role is to help them. Our role is not to tell them what to do and how to do it. And no piece of software should dictate to a school how it should run. It should help them. It should be an enabler, a facilitator. The word learning is important because all we do is education. You know, we are an MIS provider that only works with schools. Therefore, everything we should be doing should be about helping learning. And thrive is important because Compass culture is fun. You know, we're a young-ish company compared to some MISs. The Australian culture is perhaps a little bit more laid back than UK culture, and we want a sense of excitement in what we do. We want our developers to be excited about what they're building and the impact that that's going to have in schools. And schools are emotional, creative, inspiring places. So that sort of sense of learning thrive, I think, is really important. So it's a set of words, it's a tagline. Each of those means something quite specific to us. As a company, we've got a set of core values. And they're all around being the school, putting ourselves in the shoes of our customers, conquering the impossible. So things that schools don't know can be done, how do we find a way of doing it? We talk a lot about doing things yesterday. So where there's a need to act fast, let's make sure we do actually act fast and get that done. So all of those things sort of wrap around how we act and behave as a company. So all of our development is done in-house by our own staff. And I think we empower all of our developers, guys who physically build the product, to spend time with the end user. And that's a really important link, because if you're building something and your head is in code, if you can translate that into a school environment, which is probably very different, well, it is undoubtedly different to the corporate environment. Schools are loud and busy and vibrant, and there's lots going on all the time. So I think if you can always put yourself in that place when you're developing a widget, a button, or whatever it may be, then that's really important, that's step one. I think the other important part is because all of that resource is part of the Compass family. They're all employees of Compass. They all share that same purpose, that mission, that values. That helps us just naturally make sure that what's coming through is driven by what ultimately our customers will want. We're far less likely, therefore, to build something just because we can, or to build something that we think might be useful but ends up turning out not to be, or to build something that ends up not adding value to our customers. So I think from an innovation point of view, staying close to our customers is probably the biggest thing that we do, and understanding what they want and what they need and how we can solve those problems.